People who work at or frequently visit Disney, what do you know that would ruin the magic? I have been stranded on a stopped rocket inside Space Mountain at Disneyland. It took about 15 minutes to get the ride moving again. Anyway, we ended up riding it with the lights on. And it's a surprisingly slow tame roller coaster. There are fans blowing air in your face to give it the illusion of speed. Yeah, it's one of the slowest coasters at any major park. Frankly, it's super impressive how they make it feel fast. It's also heavily air conditioned so that the wind feels faster. The fast and thumping music also adds to the feeling. When you walk through areas of Magic Kingdom and you smell freshly baked cookies in a certain area, it's not actual cookies from one of the stores. They secretly spray cookie smell to add to the effect. I worked in broadcast services in Anaheim. There is not a single place in the park, except for bathrooms, and in some cast member areas, where you cannot be seen on CCTV. That sounds incredibly expensive. I don't think this ruins anything, but it always makes me laugh. The night show at Hollywood Studios is called Fantasmic, and it ends with a bunch of characters going by on Steamboat Willie. Then they all go inside and fireworks sparks stream down the side of the boat. Well, Ariel has a tail and can't walk, so she has to stay outside on her pedestal at the back of the boat. So Prince Eric wraps a fireproof blanket around her before going in. It's dark on that part of the boat when it happens, but if you watch for it you can definitely see it. Hey, this is one I actually knew. When you stay at a resort, Disney opens a file for you. They know where you eat, what rides you've been on, and how many times you've complained to a manager or guest services. That's why I think it hilarious when people online tell others online that they can get things for free if they complain. Sure, you might get something at first, but Big Brother Disney is keeping tabs on you. Whenever we have difficult guests, the first thing my manager does is pull up their file, and if you've been complaining and getting free things at every restaurant, ride, and hotel you've been to, chances are, your luck is about to run out, and it doesn't go away after you leave. It stays there, till the next time you come back. Think of it as your Disney permanent record. Also, the Disney Secret Security. They look just like a regular tourist, but their job is to walk around and watch for people doing things they're not supposed to be doing. Lots of visitors will try to spread the ashes of loved ones on theme park rides. Walt Disney World has 2 abandoned parks. 1, River Country was a water park. Before it closed, an 11-year-old visitor died after coming into contact with brain-eating amoeba at the park. Costumed characters are not allowed to take off their costume in public. The average temperature high in Orlando in summer is around 91. In 2004, a cast member dressed up as Pluto was killed after a parade float ran over him. I went to a conference for a small organization I'm in which a previous Disney CEO spoke at. He talked about how they focused on Disney princesses so they could sell lots of accessories to girls and how little girls are much better to sell to than boys because boys are satisfied playing with sticks on the ground while little girls want more. I'm a cast member at Disneyland California. The one thing that ruins the magic is all the people who complain to get free things. I work at guest relations and all the time people complain about trivial things to try and get fast passes or other free things. My girlfriend is an avid Disney fan and goes all the time. Her favorite thing to point out is how often they reuse old animatronics. For example, in Disneyland California there used to be an old attraction called America Sings where animals would sing to an audience. When the ride closed, some of the geese in the attraction were stripped and used in the queue for Star Tours as droids. A lot of others ended up going to Splash Mountain. Rumor has it they use the old Big Owl animatronic from the Country Bears for Oogie Boogie in the holiday overlay of the Haunted Mansion. They also reuse molds of animatronics, so there are many in Spaceship Earth, Carousel of Progress and Haunted Mansion in Orlando who share faces with the president in the Hall of Presidents. Dude, Big Al was creepy and when I was a kid, especially with his blood song. I build concerts, did Disney on Ice a number of times. Goofy once told me about his breakfast that morning. Wheaties with beer, no milk. It was a great performance that day. The Mad Lad. I rode on Space Mountain when they had all the lights on. It makes the whole thing really sketchy. The whole coaster area of the building was lit up with LED fluorescent bulbs or something, and you could see everything. Stuff is a lot closer to your head than you think it is, and they use the dark to hide a lot of the inner workings instead of spending money on making it all match the theme of the ride. Overall, a really weird experience. When I went on Space Mountain, I was so paranoid of getting my head hit or something. That was the only ride I felt that way. Guess it makes sense now. I saw some YouTube video of a Disney princess that worked at the park. She had literal stalkers that would show up constantly and talk to her. They would even get angry at the replacement if the person the stalker was stalking had to have their normal shift off. Disney wouldn't do anything until the stalker did something physical or lewd. A 40-year-old man coming to visit a specific 20-year-old girl that had to interact with the man with a smile day after day wasn't creepy enough for Disney. That's scary. I know that the different Peter Pan actors have been nicknamed by fans, and they will visit their specific favorites rides. Also, one set of Peter Pan and Wendy actors got married. I worked as a chef at Disneyland. Most of the food at the most expensive parts of Disneyland, the winery, Blue Bayou, use canned and over-processed ingredients. Any dietary restrictions, you are most likely getting food from a microwave. Despite having some of the most skilled chefs on the planet, they cut corners in every way. My sister got to eat at Cinderella's castle 2 years ago. She said the food was like overpriced Applebee's quality, complete waste of money. The go away green paint they use, that you don't notice, because you're not supposed to. It's on everything they don't want you to pay attention to. Oh, just remembered another one. If you forget your name tag, you wear a spare from the manger's office. Most of the spares say Chris from Orlando, because that's a unisex name. But a lot of cast members keep the spare and wear it when they are not feeling magical so they can't get complaints. I did actually know one Chris from Orlando who was a cast member, and it sucked for him because he never got any cast compliments. Guest relations always figured it was a fake name. Or people just borrow the name of someone who is getting off when they are starting their shift. I was once Justin. I'm female, so it was fun making up stories to guests about it. My parents liked boys' names for girls, or it's pronounced Justine. It was an unentertaining shift. Daughter-in-law worked at WDW. Some days her only job was to organize the strollers outside of a theater. As one group left a show and took theirs, she'd push the next set of strollers forward. Otherwise you'd have the 3rd and 4th show guest strollers blocking the paths. She was constantly being yelled for having moved them. One lady said her purse was in the stroller with their passports and airline tickets. Once they found a sleeping toddler. In Magic Kingdom at WDW, there is a vacuum system that literally sucks away trash to a central location backstage behind Frontierland. The floors of that central location have to be specially treated because so many people pour their sodas in the trash. If it wasn't, the acidity of the soda would literally eat away at the concrete floor. The vacuum system also makes the underground tunnel smell. I worked in Frontierland. When I was first learning my way around the tunnels, I used the smell of garbage as my landmark of where to turn. I had a teacher who was a cast member at Disney, said that every time he smells trash, he thinks of his time there because the crew member lounge in his area was right next to the dumpsters. My dad used to date this absolutely gorgeous little Armenian woman. She could have been a model, but she was in the Mickey Minnie Mouse costume. They need someone small for that costume. So next time you're taking a picture next to Mickey, just know that the person inside could be anyone from a Danny DeVito lookalike to a supermodel-esque woman. Her ex-husband was actually just as small and he played Mickey and Minnie too. I am now never going to be able to unsee Danny DeVito as Mickey and Minnie Mouse. A small part of me is going to forever believe that it's his side gig. My dad actually opened Splash Mountain at Florida. He used to be a very well-known weatherman. People still come up to him all the time who recognize him, so we go frequently cause they always send us stuff. We were one of the test families for the magic bands and all sorts of stuff. But the one thing I think of when people ask this is all the illusions they use. Many rides are a lot slower than they seem. Many smells and pumped into the parks, and if you walk through any of the parks without the music playing, it loses 75% of the feeling. The sword in the stone is brought up by a button on certain cameras that the photographers that work at Disney. You have to have one of them press the button on, else it is stuck. Your hands don't have to be on it. I don't know if this counts, but this was a while ago, so it may not be accurate and I don't visit it regularly, but here goes. I was having dinner in the castle with the princesses because of my sister, and our table was by a wall. I accidentally hit the wall and it looked like one of those big ones about 30 centimeters across, 1 foot, and it looked like plastic and felt like it, and that was the same type of brick as the outside ones. So from that, it seems that the castle is not made of traditional castle stuff. When their plants don't match their aesthetic standards, that is, they are sick, too big, small, or not in bloom, they are switched with a full-grown replacement. The trees on Main Street are regularly swapped out so that they maintain the proper height to achieve the forced perspective. At the end of each season, thousands of flowers in the Mickey Mouse floral display at the entrance are removed and replaced so it is always in bloom. All these rotations are done in one night to not affect visitor experience. Not sure if it's only at Disney stores but at the parks as well, but when the people tell you to have a Disney day, they are basically telling you to go FCK yourself. I don't know whether this will ruin anything, it's just a fun fact. Walt Disney was a chain smoker and constantly had a cigarette in his hand. Consequently, a majority of the photographs taken of him show him holding a cigarette. In today's modern society, it is no longer socially appropriate to be a chain smoker, so the Disney company has airbrushed the cigarettes out of all the old photos of Walt that they use for publicity. This leaves Walt holding his hand in a very strange position, with 2 fingers extended, where there used to be a cigarette between them. The Disney company's official explanation for this is that Walt had a very unique hand gesture, that every time he pointed, he did so with 2 fingers. In order to perpetrate this lie on the public, all Disney employees, in the parks, the hotels, the Disney stores in malls, everywhere, are required to point with 2 fingers, and are told, this is the Disney way, and the whole reason is to make the public comfortable with seeing that gesture, so that Walt doesn't look weird in all those old pictures where the cigarettes have been erased. Try it. The next time you're around a Disney employee, ask for directions, or ask where something is. I guarantee you they will point with 2 fingers. Yeah, I wouldn't say this ruins anything. That's just a really cool tidbit. Disney built the railroad tracks in Anaheim elevated as a way to block the horizon. This allowed for an immersive experience as to not be able to see outside of the park. I used to work at both Disneyland and World. I think the worst part is how toxic the mentality they require is. I knew several people who had trouble separating themselves from the I have to make everyone happy constantly mindset when they left work. One of them even was hospitalized after a suicide attempt that he said was because he felt like his life was fake when he left work and that it made him a total pushover. Disney definitely doesn't want you to feel this way, but there is something about the people they hire who have constant over-the-top personalities that becomes too much. As a side effect of it, I felt sometimes like I was going to get in trouble if I didn't constantly smile or feel 100%, even outside work. It definitely isn't a place that embraces reality, but for what they do there that only makes sense. People don't want to pay thousands of dollars to go on vacation and see people feeling crappy. Not Disney, Universal, but it applies to Disney as well. A lot of sets are just a shell. Seems pretty obvious, but a guest seemed really upset when I answered his question about the Harry Potter train just going through our back of house. There's nothing interesting on the other side, just offices and wardrobe. The whole center of Universal with the offices and soundstage looking buildings is still really disorienting for me. I apparently spent too much time as a guest with that train being the way between parks to ever incorporate the reality of the layout into my worldview. I've only been to Disneyland once when I was little enough for it to be magical, but not so little that I can't ride some of the rides. But the thing that stood out the most for me was seeing stormtroopers going into a break room. I really wanted to get a picture with one and thankfully the guy at the end was nice. But seeing them go into a break room was weird. I realized that there were people too. The Haunted Mansion is just a facade. The ride itself is in a giant nondescript warehouse. You enter through an elevator concealed in the stretching entryway, which is actually the world's largest elevator by capacity. In Disneyland, the actual warehouse is outside the park proper, hidden by a berm and sightlines for space reasons. Wow, I always thought the stretching room was just the ceiling being lifted. That's why they always tell you to stay away from the walls. That's pretty cool. Apparently all the skeletons in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride were once real human skeletons, because Disney himself wanted them to look more realistic. But now we're better at making realistic stuff like that, so they took out all the real ones and replaced them with fake ones. Apparently there's a skull in there that's still real though. If anyone wants to do more research on where that is in the ride or has pictures of it, that would be cool. I believe it's the one embedded in a headboard. And yeah, at the time real skeletons were way cheaper than realistic fakes. The Disney World one only ever had fakes, I'm pretty sure. I worked at SeaWorld, not Disney, but there are vending machines right on the other side of those partitions that separate the guest area and employee area that have soda in cans for 50 cents and bottles for 75. Just be quick and you'll be fine, and if someone notices you, just act like you didn't see the employees only sign. We will believe you. Most employees, they have a rather low opinion on the intelligence of tourists. I think there are a lot of parks that have a setup like this for vending machines. You just have to know where they are. If an employee is near, maybe you could give them money and ask them nicely to go get you a drink. I understand if someone dies, they'll just sit there and talk to them as if they were just hurt so as to not alarm other guests. A friend of mine just got married and his wife wanted to give up her career at a law firm to go work at Disney. Sounded like she was going to get this big important position, but it was entry level. So she got there, they have public housing, and get paid minimum wage, and she was forced to do menial park labor. She came back pretty fast. A ride constantly breaking down during the day. The one day I was in Magic Kingdom, I tried going on Pirates of the Caribbean 3 times. First time, it was through FastPass. Ride breaks down, so my friends and I were allowed to use it on any other ride in the park. Went on Space Mountain, so it was worth it. Second time, it was a 40 minutes wait, so my friends and I decided to wait it out. 30 minutes in, we hear that the ride broke down again. Third time, at like 10 PM after I go on Splash Mountain. 20 minutes wait, so I figured what the heck. Breaks down just as soon as I make it to the front of the line. I used to work at Splash. It breaks down all the time, especially in summer. My dad used to work there. It turns out a child had brought his pet mouse, named Mickey, and it escaped and died in the log ride. Soon after, it was closed due to a red color and putrid scent in the water, and had to be shut down and cleaned. Crowds, just crowds. The ride lines are always long, it's impossible to walk around with thousands of people around you, and it ruins the experience. If you want to go to Disneyland World, go on a school or work day, because nobody's usually there. A lot of people go to Epcot for the Drink Around the World challenge. Basically they drink the national cocktail of every country pavilion, and almost everyone who take up this challenge end wasted and throwing up in the restroom at the time the night show starts. So yeah, if your kid has an urge at night in Epcot, go behind a tree. It's safer and probably cleaner than whatever is left of the restroom at that hour. My girlfriend worked in recreation over there as a lifeguard. The pools are cleaned daily, which is great. However, in summer the pools would close up to 6 times a day for unscheduled maintenance or something similar. This usually meant that someone had had an accident in the pool and the manager needed to get it out. The kids' water area closed down a lot for this too. The water then needs retesting for safety and it can take a long time. One particular day they had 4 back-to-back, 2 from same kid, followed by a thunderstorm. People were not happy, but trust me, if it's closed, you really don't want to go in. If you've been to Disneyland in the last few years and rode Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, there is a certain part of the ride where if you look in the right direction you could see them building Galaxy's Edge. My friend who was an AP holder pointed it out on our trip together in 2017. Disney's Tower of Terror in California, if I recall correctly. has its specific height because if it were 1 foot higher it'd need a bright red beacon to warn aircraft. The water on the safari cruise isn't even waist deep, it's dyed to seem deeper. The Magic Kingdom in California is on the first floor. The ground floor is an elaborate network of tunnels so you don't see too many maintenance crews or characters in the wrong area. This one's pretty well known these days, but still, the people in costumes around the park are fricking each other. Cinderella is blowing Aladdin, Mickey Mouse is banging one of the chipmunks, Ariel is taking it from Frozone and Woody. I can't express how surprisingly common it is for those actors to just bang it out behind the scenes in between their shifts. My great-grandfather is an Imagineer and took us under Disney World one visit, and we could legitimately hear the clapping echoing through one of the tunnels. He said it's not encouraged there by any means, but hardly anyone does anything because it's so common and apparently keeps morale up. Apparently standing around in a sweltering goofy costume all day is worth it if you get to bang Snow White later. On the bright side, we passed a free condom dispenser inside one of the changing rooms. At least Disney sorta cares. Worked all over WDW in Orlando. There are some locations where you'll get written up if a manager sees you and you're not smiling. Got off 10-hour shifts and was frozen in a smile until after a shower and face massage. If you're an intern they charge you rent for staying on the property you practically have to stay in. It's absurd amounts for what you're given. Oftentimes I'd work 70 hours weeks and take home about $1,200 a month. That ruins crap. How many jars of human ash have been spread throughout the park? They try to keep it clean, but sometimes it's pretty apparent, especially when you know the difference between dust and ash. You're tracked through the RFID chip in your Magic Band, park ticket, or cast member ID. At any given point, if they have to find you, they can. I worked as an artist animator for Disney Imagineering for 3 years. Fun job. Learned a lot both good and bad about the entertainment biz. Incredible amounts of backstabbing. Talented artists and gobsmacking amounts of cash just pee away. Wanna ruin the magic work for Disney for an extended period of time. We had a saying for people who worked for them for ages and were still gung-ho and excited about it. They got a lot of pixie dust in their veins. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.